Now this video today I want to show you how to make a chicken ballotine made out of a breast. Now in the world of pâtés and terrines there are some rarer but very similar dishes that many of us may unfamiliar with, and ballotine is one of them. Now ballotine, like galantine, is a roll made from a whole bird or pieces of chicken, pork, veal, lamb, and even fish, which has always been trimmed, meaning you remove all the sinewy bits, the bones, as well as sometimes the skins. Now ballotines are ideal dishes or do-ahead recipes, especially for dinner party, and it can be quite inexpensive, but if it's done well, it's always extremely impressive and extremely satisfying to cook. To make a ballotine or galantine, meats have to be deboned, rolled, and sometimes stuffed and sometimes glazed, and it can either be served hot or cold, just like the chef likes it. Now, to not confuse you even further, a ballotine is generally served hot. Its cousin, the galantine, is served cold, but both are cooked similar, either poached or braised. A ballotine later on can be served hot when it's roasted again. It's usually served as a gravy and as a main course, and the galantine can be served cold, and it's usually glazed with a jelly-like sauce, which you call in French cooking a chaufroid, and it's always served as an entree. Now ballotine is indeed French, and it got its name from the word bal, meaning a package. And to hold it in shape, traditionally chefs used to sew it back together, or they wrapped it in crepinette or coal fat. But more recent modern versions, chefs just use glad wraps. Sure, there are so many different versions and different complexities and methods, and today I want to show you a very simple basic version made from a chicken breast and stuffed with a moral mousse, and that is a cooking technique that will always impress, and even Michelin Star restaurants cook ballotines like that to this day. So enjoy the video. So the first thing you need to do is obviously cut out all the sinewy bits, because they can be later on hardened, because you're going to cook it on a very low temperature. Because I don't want to cook it too much. If you overcook it, you know how it goes, the proteins will harden, so we just cook it on a very low temperature, and those sinewy bits as well as the fat will not melt and it will not soften, so hence you need to trim that all off. Then you butterfly a chicken breast, so basically just cut it open. Try to make it an even sheet of meat, so just play around with it. If you muck it up, don't worry about it, because you're going to stuff it with a chicken mousse, and that later on will glue it all back together anyway. So as long as you have a really good rectangular sheet of chicken meat, because that means you can get the filling really nicely into the center. So flatten it out. Then the next thing what I like to do, because you want to shape it perfectly round, and I'm not a big fan of glad wrap, neither am I of tin foil, because that's made from aluminium, so I put it on a piece of baking paper, and that keeps it really nice and clean, and I don't get any heavy metals into my food. Now I made a chicken mousse here, which you can see in one of my other videos, which is basically just blended up chicken. I put that in a blender, used really cold meat, then I added some cream, some eggs, and some chopped morels or truffles, and now I just roll that together. So you can see what I did. I put a bit too much filling in it, and I want to show you that today, because that's how most likely it's going to work for the first time. I'm not a big fan of bashing the meat, because otherwise it just break up the meat fibers. So the next thing is you take some tin foil, and the tin foil is absolutely amazing, because with the tin foil you can put it into a perfect shape, and you're going to see that now. So you just roll it up. It's really good tick if anytime you want to make a roulade, you know. So now I just twist it and turn it on the sides, and you can see now how it tightens up and it tightens up. So next thing I do, I wrap it in some glad wrap. If you're somebody who uses a sous vide device, you could just put it in the bag and basically seal it now. But I'm more traditional chef, so I'm just gonna basically roll it, and then I need to make sure that I tie the ends. So the great thing about that is also, if you make that and you cook it, that chicken ballotine will last in the fridge easily for 10 days because the meat's going to be cooked. You can freeze it down. And the great thing about it is, if you close that package up really well, then you obviously create a vacuum. So you sear the meat as well, which means it's basically sort of sealed inside that glad wrap and foil, and it will basically stay fresh, probably even for 2 weeks. Now, would I make a galantine? I would basically just take that meat out later on, as you will see it, and I glaze it. But today, as I said, we do ballotine because that's a bit easier and a bit approachable. So the next thing you need to do in between, you need to warm some water up. So I get my water to approximately 75 degrees. It cannot be lower because you're dealing with raw chicken, so you have to make sure you kill off all the bacteria. So somewhere between 75 degrees and 78 degrees is really good, because if the water is too hot, then you basically will overcook the chicken. I'll just show you that once again. You just twist it and turn it. It needs to be really, really tight. You need to have it in a really, really good shape. And that's your chicken ballotine. Now, you have to cook it fairly quickly. Here we go. There's my water now. Don't put it in the fridge and let it stand, because there's salt in the chicken mousse. It might draw out some moisture of the ballotine or from the chicken meat, and through that you later on might have a pool of juice. So 75 degrees for something like that, you leave it in there for 45 minutes. If you leave it longer, that's okay. You just let the temperature drop, don't go higher. So I show you that once again. You just put it in the boiling hot water, and you basically make sure you check the temperature. You cook it until 75 degrees. 45 minutes minimum. If it's longer, that's okay. If it's less, it's probably not so good. Now, the temperature ideally can drop towards the end, and now I just open it up. So what I do today, it's not ideal because I open up my ballotine while it's hot. You can see there's all the juice coming out. Now, if you can avoid that, chill it down to fridge temperature and then open it up, because then the juices will set much better, and the gelatines of the juices will set much better in between the meat fibers. But if you rush like I do today, you just cut it open, and here we go. There's my ballotine. All I need to do now is dry it off a little bit. If I would make that, turn it into a galantine now, I obviously would have taken the chicken skin off and I would glaze it with some sauce. So next thing, before you serve it, just get a hot pan, add some butter to it, put the ballotine in. How long do I cook it? Well, I need to build up a really, really nice color on the outside, and I need to warm the center. There's nothing that I have to cook anymore. So the best way would be that you just take a paring knife or so, poke a hole in it, sort of towards the end when you think it's ready. Don't do it too early because you don't want the juices to escape. And then check the temperature on the back of your hand, and if it's sort of as warm as your bath or your shower water, you're right there. So here we go. I just color it up really nicely, then I set it aside. Or I could even put it in the oven. If I do a dinner party, I switch my oven on to 60-65 degrees, and then just put the roll in there and just let them sit in there, because that's such a low temperature. It will not cook the proteins, but it will keep it perfectly warm. So here we go. Now the color is nicely built up, so let's have a look at it, how it looks inside. So the chicken skin is obviously nice and crunchy and crispy, and now I'm just gonna slice my ballotine, and the meat, as you can see, is really nice and juicy. That's exactly how I want it, because we kept the temperature during cooking so low. And inside you can see the chicken and the morel and truffle mousse. And that's how I cook a ballotine. So in my courses and in my videos here, I always like to show you techniques, because cooking techniques is the real gold of cooking. Recipes are sort of just a suggestion, especially when it's savory. So if you like my video, just look how amazing it looks. If you like my video, please subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos, check out the links below. And there's a pretty amazing dish, and all I would do then, I would serve it with either a sauce béarnaise or a beurre blanc or red wine beurre blanc or a velouté, or a gravy style sauce like I served today, a red wine glaze. But again, you can learn that all in my online courses, and I hope you enjoyed that video. I look forward to seeing you another time.